I've seen you transform a lot, and it's been actually inspiring having been your coach, but now being your buddy, and your business is different and your life is different.
I was in my hippie phase and I was a fruitarian. I know you're teasing, but it's true. I was like, I was eating 80, 90%. What I was eating was fruit. And yeah, I had long hair. I was wearing stereotypical hippie clothes. I was a yoga teacher and doing all this sort of stereotypical hippie stuff. Yeah, man. I was also quite feminine. And it was just around those times that I realized that I had been in this kind of overly feminine phase, mostly because I was afraid to be a man. I felt guilt and shame for my masculine impulses, and the way you were putting that stuff into words about masculinity and how it correlates with testosterone and all this stuff, you were talking about it in such a grounded way that it really started clicking. And it was around that time that I realized that this fruitarian yoga leggings, long-haired version of me is not real, but it's because subconsciously I was like, hey, well, this gives me validation from women. It's like, oh, you're so great at talking about your emotions. Oh, you're so vulnerable. Like, good on you. You know, like I was getting this sort of energy from women. So yeah, as soon as I realized what was going on and I found you, started working on that stuff, man, it didn't take me long because I think I'm naturally quite a intense guy, and my whole teenage years I was very masculine, probably not in a healthy way. I was getting in quite a bit into fights and so but anyway, and I've always been listening to hip hop, so that sort of raw testosterone masculine energy is not like foreign to me. So anyway, it didn't take long for me to start connecting to that, and yeah, starting to feel more confident and ballsy with women. And then I started instantly sharing about my story on Facebook and Instagram, and I was getting such a positive feedback and response from the world that I just kept going. And now, 5-6 years later, here we are, Finland's leading men's work dating guy, just climbing up the top 100 podcast list in Finland. So yeah, man, doing great.
Yeah, I do want to touch on something you mentioned, because you mentioned, I mean, I don't really want to talk about politics per se with you, but I don't know if you did you see my episode on the political gender gap?
Is it a recent episode?
I don't know, like a couple months ago, something like that.
Okay. No,
anyway, this is a topic. Other people are talking about it. Chris Williamson posted something about it. Other people are talking about it. And I can't be for sure because I only know the people that I talk to, you being one of them. But it seems like most men, and this is my journey too, going super into like the liberal, non-political, liberal in quotes, of like empathy and hippiness and yoga and feeling your feelings and being a good listener. At some point, if you wake up and look at reality, you're like, oh, this doesn't work so well. This episode is brought to you by the Masculine Archetype Challenge. It's my 21-day program for connecting a man to his testosterone-driven instincts. Based in Jungian psychology, I take you through 21 lessons and exercises to help you reconnect to this primal part of your unconscious. It comes with a lot of amazing bonuses, including a free coaching call with me. So if you want to check it out, click on the link attached to this episode. My equivalent of what you described is like, I was in Bali. I was in this super feminine world. I could speak the language. I could empathize. I could make good eye contact. But ultimately, everybody wanted a man. And because I was a little bit more masculine than all the other hippies, I got a lot of attention. And it's like, okay, that's feedback from collective women that's not the extreme liberal thing is not what anybody wanted. It's not nature. And then there's other political forces. A lot of guys are shifting towards, well, I want to lift weights and I want to do hard things and I want to be more dominant, and women actually respond to this. So I guess I'm curious, these are my observations, but I'm curious if you've noticed this in Finland too, in the men's development world. I think a lot of people shifted this way post-pandemic as well.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, I don't know how much I should talk about my guests here, but even I'm going to say this, like all the guests that I just mentioned, like who said they're feminists, like I could clearly tell, or either it's fully readable in between the lines, or they outright said it out loud that they like hyper masculine men. Can you find like hyper masculine men who are like hyper liberal? Probably not. Or what do you think?
I think they exist, but I think they're kidding themselves. I'm not going to mention his name, but there's this one guy. I hired him. He's kind of well known. He coached me very briefly. He has well, I don't want to describe him too much, but he's like kind of a caricature of super liberal person. He posts a lot. He posts a lot of anti-Trump stuff during the election, like really far in that world. He's in the sex positive world, all about open relationships and polyamory and play parties and stuff. But he's also 6'4". He's jacked. He's a millionaire. And I remember getting into an argument with him where he saw something I posted and it was like, dude, this is like toxic. You're telling me. And it's like, you are living everything that I'm saying is important, but it's just obvious to you because you're tall, handsome, rich, jacked, inherently masculine. So for you, I get it. Like for a guy who's like that, like your natural Giga Chad, it's important to remind him, oh yeah, empathy is important and paying attention to women's feelings. Of course, that's true. But most guys don't have that. Most guys are too weak. The audience I'm speaking to are not 6'4" jacked millionaires. And anyway, he and I don't really talk anymore, but I think there are people like that who are liberal, politically liberal because that's the community they're in, or maybe it helps them get laid more or whatever. I don't know. But they're not living that way. Like he's living by conservative values ultimately.
Yeah, the only masculine men that I know, of course, I'm also in my own bubble, but that I know who come across as strong liberal values, they are physically very masculine. Like they have strong jawline, they're big, and all that stuff. Like, yeah, okay, you're cool.
Yeah, and I think it's like, you know, I'm not accusing such people of being disingenuous. I think for some people, certain values are so obvious they don't even think about it. Like being tough is just like who they are since childhood. So they don't have to think about it. It's like not even like remind guys to be tough. Like, why would you need that? Like men are tough. Actually, do you know this guy, Dwayne Knoll? Have you heard of him? He was just on Chris Williamson's podcast. I actually never listened to Chris Williamson. I don't know why I keep mentioning him, but like I just listened to one of his episodes. Anyway, this guy, I guess you don't know him. He's like a 57-year-old cowboy. I started listening to his podcast because he talks about riding horses, and that's my new thing.
This guy with the big beard.
Yeah, big beard dude.
Yeah. I saw a clip where he was like, if anyone would hurt his daughter, they would disappear.
Yeah. And like he's the type of guy I always was drawn to, and I love he's my favorite podcaster now. I listen to a lot of his stuff just because like he was a cowboy. All of his wisdom comes from doing hard things and like riding horses and carrying a gun and raising 7 children. But for him, he was talking with Chris Williamson about the importance of relaxation and how men need to chill more and not be so type A and he's like very anti-hustle culture and stuff. And yeah, but he's a guy for whom hard work was never a question. And a lot of guys need to be told you need to work harder. So anyway, it just came to mind. I assume he's not liberal, but he might emphasize the thing that is new for him. Whereas for most guys, you need to emphasize testosterone stuff.
That's interesting. That kind of makes me think like, okay, where I kind of want to look in the mirror and see like if there's anything that I'm doing similarly, like something that's supernatural to me and I'm, kind of doing the same in my own way. I think that requires some reflection.
Yeah, well, I know for myself on the flip side, like the hard work ethic stuff, like the stuff that you and I talk about, it's only interesting to me, I assume for you, because it wasn't obvious to me when I was growing up. Because I also was raised to be like an effeminate hippie in some way, like, and then it's like, oh, it's a realization like, oh, testosterone's really important. So like that now I'm shouting it, but like to a super alpha guy like Dwayne Knoll, it's a kind of a boring statement.
Yeah. So I think we're almost the opposite because we're talking about the things that were not obvious to us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Other thing I want to bring up, maybe this is controversial. I don't know. But the last time you and I did coaching was like over a year ago, I think. It was mostly on your previous relationship. You don't have to talk too much about it. But, you and I were speaking towards the end of that. You decided to break up. And I remember our last coaching call, which was after your breakup. You made a list. I guess you came up with this list on your own of what needs to be true for you to be in a committed relationship. Do you remember the checklist? It was like 5 things, I think.
I don't remember I remember us doing it, but I don't remember the things that I wrote down.
I don't remember all the things, but the ones that stuck with me is like, she's not traumatized. She's a good relationship with her father. Hasn't had too many ex-boyfriends.
Yes.
I think there's a few other things, but those are the ones that stuck out to me. I would love to talk about that because
let's talk about it.
It's a little bit controversial. Actually, that last one is the one thing Nalaya, my wife, and I argue about with parenting our daughter. Like, I would love for her to marry her first boyfriend and him to be an awesome dude who takes care of her and is strong and all that stuff. Nalai and I got together in our 30s, so she had a party girl phase earlier and stuff, and she felt it was really important for her growth. But anyway, I thought it was an interesting thing that you put on your list.
Yes.
Yeah. And, I mean, it's not to shame a woman for body count, but what I took for it, because, I do think sexual exploration is important, and I want my daughter to have freedom, right? I don't want her to be locked into like a shotgun wedding or anything. But I've observed, and I think maybe you too, you could comment on it, of course, is like when a woman has had a lot of exes, she's gone through a lot of breakups, the likelihood that she has relationship trauma is much higher. And it's probably true for men too. But it does seem to be a thing. Like the best relationships I've had have been with women, to your point, who have good relationships with their father. My wife does, which is great. I didn't even think about that, but I just got lucky. And they've been basically well treated by men. But if they've had a lot of ex-boyfriends, the odds of that are lower, truthfully. She's had her heart broken more. She's been mistreated more. She's been abused more. And whether or not, this is not obviously to shame anybody who's had those unfortunate things happen, but it's so much harder to be with a woman, and it's probably true for men too, women dating men, like it's so much harder to be with someone who's got that kind of damage. And yeah, it's not ideal for a relationship ultimately.
Yes, absolutely. I think the new nuance that I have to that is like simultaneously, I think it's also very important. Like if I would think about a imaginary daughter for myself, like I think it would be important for women in general to form a healthy relationship to their sexuality where there's no shame and where there's like acceptance of, hey, this is my sexual nature. I allow my pleasure. I allow my sexiness. I allow myself to feel attractive. I allow these feminine qualities of receiving and these sort of things. And in that sense, I think sexual liberation is great. But where we go off track and hit a tree 100 kilometers per hour is when we equate sexual liberation to, let's have as much sex as freely as we want with whoever, right? I think that's a bad idea for probably anyone, but I think especially a woman, like even physically, and I would argue also emotionally, like probably biologically as well in terms of hormonal function, it's more vulnerable. And like this is the nuance I would like to bring is, yes, sexual liberation. Yes, like getting rid of toxic shame. I think there's a place for shame. I think shame is like there's some function for it. Like it's kind of like a social compass a little bit, like shame stops me from doing stupid shit. So there, shame is good. But when shame is like about things which are just your inherent nature, then it's bad. So what I think would make the world a better place is where women don't feel shame about their sexuality and they feel liberated in their pleasure and all that stuff, but that they understand that they are valuable and that their sexuality is very valuable and access to their body is very valuable, and it should not be given away lightly to someone just because they're there and they happen to be somewhat handsome and horny doesn't mean you should put out, right? So it's a nuanced topic. I don't think, let's put it like this. I think personally, this is where I'm leaning towards right now is like, I think probably for most human beings, regardless of gender, it's good to explore a bit with your sexuality. But that doesn't mean having sex with 30 people before you're 23, right? Mm-hmm. So what's your thoughts on all that?
Well, all right. My honest thoughts, and I might want to add nuance or pull it back, but my gut, my shooting from the hip feeling is like, and based on observation, is like a guy who doesn't have some experiences before he settles down usually has some insecurity. I know a lot of friends in great relationships, but they never really felt powerful in their dating life. They didn't have an amount of abundance that made them feel very secure, and it affects their ability to be a good boyfriend or husband. With women, though, and again, this is maybe a very biased perspective, but a lot of my female friends, especially when I was in a more wilder phase, were also very sex positive, free with their sexuality women. All of them either changed and now renounce that, or they're pretty unhappy in older age. And a lot of my friends and a handful of my exes were even sex workers, they were strippers, or they tried other things. And like, it was really empowering when they were 23. But at 35, it's like kind of sad. And I think, I mean, some of them have even told me like, yeah, they wish they didn't do that so much. And it's a little bit harder to like trust men or be open. Or actually, my friend Omar Pani has brought this up once. It's like, there's nothing wrong with having a lot of sex. This is his opinion. Nothing wrong with a woman having a lot of sex as long as she doesn't close off her heart. But what happens with most women, if you're having a lot of partners, in order to not feel heartbreak all the time, you have to close off your heart. And that's damaging. And it's probably true for men too, but I just, just from estrogen and oxytocin, like estrogen creates oxytocin receptors. So like women are biologically wired to feel more attachment, especially if they have good sex. It's just different. And, I don't think it's healthy necessarily for a guy to have hundreds of partners before settling down, because maybe he, that's just probably not healthy either. But I do think that's different. And I might go back on that statement, but that is how I feel based on my observations.
Yeah, I share the same. Like I know quite a few women who have had like a wild past, and they don't advocate it. Like they're not saying it's a great idea. But I was just thinking about this. Was this on your podcast or Chris Williamson's podcast? They were talking about, there was a guest, so you'll know in a second if it was you. There was a guest who said they had done a study asking women if they'd prefer a sexual partner who's more experienced or less. And then they asked the same about men. And the answers may not surprise you, by women having said, yes, they would like someone more experienced, and men having said they would like someone less experienced.
That's probably Chris Williamson. But
Okay.
I think I've seen that clip as well. It's possible one of my guests mentioned that too, but I don't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah. And then another thing, I think this can go to very triggering waters or controversial, but there's a lot of women now who want like a very masculine man who is willing and wanting to provide and protect and lead and all that stuff. And then it's like a question of like, okay, if you want this type of masculine man who claims you and really settles to you and commits to you and chooses you and provides and protects, like how likely is it that a man like that with those types of traditional values will appreciate the fact that 27 guys have taken you from the back in the last 2.5 years? Like probably not, like with those values and qualities that a lot of women are seeking from men, usually also comes like this thing that correlates with testosterone, which is masculine, like a sense of
possessiveness.
Possessiveness, yes.
Yeah,
and women like that. I just made a podcast about it. The title was like, do women like possessive men? And dude, this clip got like semi-viral on Instagram, and all the women were like, yes. So you can't have everything. You can't like have everything at the same time. If you want these types of alpha males, and by the way, a lot of times these, you want them to be rich and tall and handsome and funny and charismatic. Those types of men usually have choice on the sexual marketplace. So I'm not saying it's all in all. I think everyone is kind of like a package with their good sides and their bad sides. And, for example, if I would really, really, really fall in love with a woman who has a high body count, like I would not let that stop me just from like a mind level. But I would see it as a big minus, and I would see it as a red flag. I would not see it as an instant deal breaker. Depends what's high. Like there is a limit where it definitely would be a deal breaker. Like I could never go with a woman who's been with like 100 guys. Like, fuck no. But there's some reasonable amount which it would not be a deal breaker, but it would be a red flag, which for me means like find out if there's trauma, find out like does she carry trauma or damage from other men? Because also a good question to ask is like, how many men actually are able to be respectful and caring before, during, and after sex? Like how many men actually are good at that? So the more men you've been with, the higher the risk goes of you having been treated badly. And that doesn't help.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's also the question, what drove someone to have, and I think this is true for men, even like what drives someone to sleep with 100 people? probably some sort of insecurity. Like, why didn't you date one of them? Or why didn't you, like, were none of them good enough for you to continue seeing, or whatever the thing is? Or why weren't you, there's something, it just, it raises a question mark about other things that maybe are upstream of that.
Yes, and this is why a lot of women got angry at me the last time I talked about this, because I didn't put enough emphasis on the fact that it's also not desirable out for men. I think it's not as bad, and also the fact, like, how many men have access to that much sex? Not many. And the ones who have usually have some very desirable qualities, or they're lying and manipulative, which then is very bad. But you get what I mean? Like, the average woman just says, like, hey, average woman puts up a Tinder, they get 1,000 likes in 2 days. I put up Tinder and I get 50 likes in 2 days. I'm handsome, tall, funny, charismatic, whatever, all this stuff. You get single mothers in their 40s, they get thousands of likes. So what I'm saying is, like, not many men even have access to that. But then, still, the real point we're trying to make is, I agree with you. Like, it's probably not a good sign if someone needs to have that much sex. And then also, I think it's an interesting topic. Where does the responsibility lie in, like, one night stands? And for example, for myself, it's not long ago, I would say a week or two, I had a date at my home. It was someone who already knew me from Instagrams. We just had a date at my place. We cooked and all that stuff. And she ended up staying for the night. And she was hot. She was, like, juicy and all that stuff. But I had this sense, like, I felt from her that she has some like innocence in her. And I just felt this responsibility where I was like, it's in no sense in integrity for me to have sex with her. And even though we slept in my bed in our underwear and we were kissing and all that stuff, I didn't even try to have sex, because in my heart, it just felt like, if I have sex with her, it's gonna damage her if I don't commit. And at this stage, I've known her for 8 hours. Like, there's no way in hell that, I think I'm gonna commit right now. So, so I felt like that felt mature from my side. Like, of course, a part of me wanted to fuck her, but I was listening to this compass, which is my heart, which is my integrity. And it said, I will hurt her. And from experience now, I also know by doing that, I will also hurt myself. That's what I've learned. If I have casual sex where it doesn't feel in alignment, and if it's really not been put out as a clear thing, where it's like there's no expectations, and and she's not looking for something more, then it can be damaging to both, I'd say.
Yeah, and I think unless a certain man is, like, just born enlightened or perfect, like, there's maybe, you probably wouldn't have done that a few years ago. Like, you needed a certain feeling of abundance. I assume you needed a level of abundance or enough experiences of doing the wrong thing, of, like, oh, this would be wrong. Is that true?
Probably. Yeah. I guess you learn from mistakes and stuff. So after my breakup, there was this one particular time where I had sex, and I literally, dude, hear this. After the woman left, I cried. I just felt so wrong in my heart. Like, I felt like I had just done something that's not, like, that shouldn't have happened. Just for myself. Okay, to be fair, that was also the first woman after my ex. To be fair, also my dad had died like 2 months ago. I guess I was just, like, a mess in general. I mean, understandably, but honestly, pretty proud of how I carried myself through all that. But it can really hurt. It can really hurt I think one factor is, like, if you sense that the woman is also feeling shame about this, if you feel she is kind of like succumbing to her animal body. I don't know if succumb is the word here. My English is like 98% good. So anyway, like, if she's, like, just fully going with her animal body and kind of having shame about it while we're having sex, I guess that's felt. And then it's just in the mutual field of, like, it's this sense of, like, we're sinning, and then it just feels terrible for both, I'd say. But then, honestly, also in the time span of the last few months, I've also had casual sex where, the chick, it's also not only once, where the chick has been at my place for multiple days. We have great sex. I know there's no expectations. They're enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. We play couple for a few days. We both know we're in a bubble. It's fun. No expectations. And it feels good. There's just no sense of this is bad. So that's why those things cannot be cookie cutter, just, blasted out into the internet like, hey, this is bad and this is good. There's nuance. And I cannot tell you exactly what the nuance here is. Well, maybe it's the fact that there's just full clarity of no expectations, and there's full clarity of they're not looking for something more serious, and they want to have fun. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's like, why is it okay sometimes? Why does it feel okay in my heart sometimes, and then sometimes it's like there's absolutely no way that this is in alignment, and then I don't do it. I don't know what it is, but I guess it's something that goes past the brain. But I follow it, and yeah.
That's great. I mean, what I hear, and maybe this is an oversimplification, but if you're really empathizing with the other person and you could feel their feelings, and it feels like it's going to lead to bad feelings, then you feel it bad in your body.
Yes.
And it might be that simple,
That, I don't think that's oversimplifying. I think that's genius.
Cool.
No, I think that's exactly it, man. That's great. That's great. By the way, I have to say, like, talking about these sort of topics, also, it could very well be that all the women that I'm referring to are listening to this right now. So it's always kind of like interesting to be talking about stuff like this so openly, but hey.
Yeah, I never know who's listening. I mean, because I do talk about my exes. I already did a little bit, or like, women I'm friends with. And, I say, oh yeah. So anyway, I do often wonder, no one's messaged me that I'm really close with of like, what the fuck? But, I never know. I always have that wonder. I did want to go back to one thing we were mentioning about the possessiveness, because so before my current relationship, my marriage, I've never been monogamous. And most of it has been like, conscious non-monogamy or whatever people call it, or like, that's mainly the things. Like, we're here, we're sleeping with other people, everything's above board. But to the same token, well, there's two things. One is referring to what you just said. There have been times where I know that we're both agreeing to polyamory, but it actually doesn't feel good. Like, on paper, it's right because we all put everything out, but like, I feel like there's something wrong. And there's a few instances where I would have done things differently. I was kind of ignoring that felt empathy, maybe on both ends. But there's also, I just want to speak about like my own feeling of my masculinity. Of there have been times where if I'm open to her sleeping with other people, which has been, in an open relationship, that's the deal, then I'm not really, it's hard to put into words. It's not that I didn't care about her, but I'm not really caring about her. It's like, I'm not really possessing her, to use that word. Like, it's different. Like, because with my wife, and we kind of talked about non-monogamy at different times. It's like, if I really am committing my life to you, then I don't want anyone else inside you. That's just how it is. It's like, there's no way those two things can be the same. If I'm okay with you sleeping with other people, then I'm also okay with you leaving. And that's not what any woman wants, let's say, in a relationship where the guy's indifferent ultimately if she stays or not. And I think for myself, there's also a connection to kind of the shift to more conservative values of like, liberality is great when you're young and you have no real attachment to each other. But if you're really building something together, there has to be some sacrifices in individual autonomy, I think, on both ends.
100%. And you can call me whatever you want, but this is an honest observation of what I notice inside myself. I could not trust a man who lets someone else fuck his woman. Like, I could not trust a man who's okay with that.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, there's just something that to me feels so inherently wrong about that idea, that if you're willing to allow something like that, it's like, how could I trust you? Like, that just feels so out of integrity. Maybe it's my values, maybe it's in my bubble, I don't know. But just to me, it's like, if you don't have that sense of protectiveness to something that, at least to me, feels sacred, you're a woman and her sexuality, if you're okay with someone else entering that, it's like, I can't trust you. I could not trust you as a solid man, as a brother. Like, I could not trust a man like that, at least from this time space where I'm now.
Yeah, well, I guess because I remember the way I used to think, and I was kind of like an ideological non-monogamist, maybe for self-serving purposes, if I want to be really brutal against myself. But what you just said, it relates to me of like, I have a lot of friends who don't have kids, who don't want kids, and I respect it. I still like them. But I would say there's an extra level of trust when a man wants to have a family because it requires so much sacrifice and like some commitment to something bigger. And I would say it goes exactly the same thing with this like kind of ownership of your woman. Like you're sacrificing yourself for other people, which means there has to be feedback. Like no one's going to genuinely sacrifice for someone who might go and be with someone else. Like it just doesn't make sense. Like from an energy perspective.
Yes, 100%.
It's probably more to say on the territoriality bit, but I do want to also talk about your father just to change gears.
Let's change gears.
Yeah, because I mean, you and I were talking a bit during that time, and obviously it's like, I mean, the obvious is that's a huge emotional journey, but I also saw you man up in certain ways. This is just my perspective talking to you through Zoom calls. Could you speak a little bit about that whole experience?
Yes. So my dad got diagnosed cancer. I think it was 2022 might have been. Yeah, battled. By the way, always been a super healthy guy, healthy lifestyle. Suddenly got cancer, which was, like a surprise because always had such a healthy lifestyle and everything. But yeah, so he battled with it for a long time, and obviously it was very heavy for the whole family, for all of us to witness and trying to walk through it together. And yeah, there were some moments of victory where we thought it was healed, like all the treatments went well and stem cells were reintroduced, all this sort of stuff. But then it came back, and yeah, it just was really aggressive. Yeah, I really, really respect my father for what he did in his last, weeks or months. Like my parents lived in this place where they were not happy. Like it was this eco village, which was supposed to be like a great thing, but there were like a lot of problems with the people, and some of the people were like really just not ideal to live with, honestly. And there was all sorts of drama, and my parents wanted to exit that place for a while, but it wasn't easy. But so in the last 2 months of my dad's life, he just decided like, fuck it, I'm going to sort this out. And he just got everything sorted. He was able to sell the house. He was able to find a new house, all of it, from his deathbed, basically, organize everything. And he was like a general when we were moving. Like he had it all planned in his head, and he had this plan, and there were some family relatives who were helping, and he was just on point. Like he couldn't lift a chair, but he was like with his head organized everything. Got the move happened, then they moved to the new house. It was like perfect for my mom. Then yeah, he lived for another 3 weeks, so everything was fine. And then he slept away. And I remember this day where I was just visiting, obviously I was trying to visit as much as I can. I was also building my business at the time and in a relationship with, just let's in a very taxing relationship. So I had like a fuck ton on my plate. But yeah, I was trying to visit as much as I can. And just one day, just had this very emotional afternoon where I was telling him like how he's given me everything that I need and more. And that he's given everyone everything we need and more, and that now he can rest. Like if he needs to let go, he can let go. And then we cried. And then it took maybe 5 days. Yeah, I've been grinding so hard lately that I haven't really made time to feel much, or it's honestly my way of coping lately with the loss is just move forward with my things, like push my projects. And it's still so painful, man. Like he was the sweetest guy. Like he was such a great dude. And yeah, just so painful to lose a man like that. That sometimes it's still so painful that I can't really, if I go there, like I will not function in the way that I need in order to move my project. But yeah, man, I think I really did man the fuck up around those times. So I really have to wipe my eyes because it's for some reason stings. I carried his body out the house with the, I don't know how you call them, but this bed. When the car came, I told one of the other guys that, like, I'll do it with him. Two guys came, and there was something really powerful in that moment. Like I was wrecked, obviously, but still I held my back straight, and I was crying my eyes out. Like, when I say I kept my composure, I don't mean some fucking I'm not feeling anything, I'm staying stoic in a toxic way. No, I don't mean that. I mean that I was able to feel and stay strong at the same time in front of our whole family. And that felt like leadership. That felt like the right thing to do. Yeah.
No, man. I mean, because I think of it now, obviously, as a father, like, I would love to hear those words on my deathbed from my children. Like, what an amazing gift to get from your son.
Yeah. It's still a tough topic to, to go deep into. It's like, it's very emotional.
And, because you're the younger sibling, right? But you kind of took care of your family, it seems. Like, I mean, you did become the man of the house, if you will, at least from my perspective. Yeah?
I did my best. My sister, yeah, there was a time where it definitely felt like that. Even I have an older brother and an older sister. Like, I felt like I had my shit together, like probably no one else did. And it feels kind of bad to say it publicly because they might be listening to, but I think my brother agrees, man. I think he agrees. I think he 70% agrees that, like, I was solid. And I even held the mental clarity and strength to be able to make a cutthroat decision to leave my girlfriend. Like, I think a month after he passed, because it was the right thing to do. Because I was actually, that was probably our second last coaching call we've ever done. It was like the millionth time that there's like a crisis inside my relationship, and then I just got this slicing clarity of I need to leave. And this is, oh yeah, and just the fact of, like, my dad passed 2 weeks ago and there's still drama from my woman. It's like, how the fuck do I think we're gonna raise kids if there's no emotional stability where my dad just died? So yeah, I was on a call with you and you just came like, there's no bigger sign of this is not going to work than if it's not working when your dad died. And since I went here, I do have to also say some nice things. Like 90% of the time, my ex was like, great during my loss there. Like, she was such a solid support, like, really. But then the 10% was so hectic that it was like, this cannot work ever. And yeah, I was able, a month after my dad passed, I was able to get clarity and be grounded enough to make the decision and make the decision to walk away. Yeah, I'm proud of myself. That wasn't easy, I can tell you that. Yeah. It's like first losing your father, then losing the woman you thought you would marry and have kids with by conscious choice. Well, probably it would have even been worse if she had left me, but oh my God. But yeah, at least it was my choice. But still proud of myself. My brother was also so proud of me. He was like, because he also knows her, and everyone really liked her. My whole family really liked her. Even to this day, like, some relatives are still like, oh, I'm so sad you guys broke up. She was so lovely. So yeah.
I mean, and I think we may have talked. I mean, this is something I say a lot, but it's the hardest way to break up is when you recognize all of their beautiful traits as well. Like a lot of people, because it's so hard, will be like, they did everything bad, and they go into victim mode and whatever. But to make that cutthroat decision, as you're saying, but also recognizing the 90% reality is particularly hard, especially in the time that you did it.
Curious though, since you wanted to bring this up, was there some particular thing that you saw or some particular thing that touched you or that you noticed that you want to share or talk about?
Well, so you and I mean, independent of this, you and I were talking about, I was coaching you on your relationship, and there's the question of like, do I become a father with this woman, and something that you've expressed that you want. And I could see how it was the main thing. I could see like maybe this was an extra catalyst that I saw you mature very quickly in this crisis. And I didn't have like super specific questions other than like, I was curious what that experience was like, because so much of a man's masculinity is tied to his father and his relationship with his father. So to lose that, yeah, I've been curious what else has gone under the hood for you, or how it's affected you as a man, or anything that has shifted.
Yeah, well, I don't know which psychologist or who's kind of coined these sort of principles, but I don't know if it's been Jung or someone else, but if I understand correctly, like what we relate with father is going out into the world, like doing your thing, exploring, like building yourself, all these sort of things, like really going out there and getting seen and like, doing your thing. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's one money too, and purpose and stuff. All
Yes.
that, yeah.
So, no, actually, I've heard that people talk about like mother represent money as in the form of abundance. But yeah, so I feel like there I'm really strong, So how I'm stepping up and stepping out and doing my thing and getting recognized and getting results and climbing, conquering Finland in what I'm doing. Like I think what I've got from my father is kind of manifesting in my actions. That's another thing, actually. That's probably also another thing why it would be good to pause more in the memory of my father. Actually, yesterday I paused before I went to bed. I paused with the memory of my father for the first time, actually consciously taking time for that for a while, because it's so painful that it's hard to move in the way that I am and still like stop and feel a lot. So anyway, the point is, after my dad passed, I felt like a lot of the qualities that he stood for and he embodied, I started to bring those out into the world. And I think it brought some depth into me. Maybe now in the last few months where I just haven't had space to be with that so much, maybe I've lost touch of those qualities a bit. But my dad was someone, I don't know many people who had this sense of awe towards life on the level that he did, and this sense of, really seeing and sensing and feeling and appreciating the magic of life. As kind of corny as that sounds, but really, like he would admire little birds, and he could, if we were on a nature walk, he could really stop and like take it all in. And he had this curiosity and amazement towards things, like mostly like life and nature and these sort of things and people, like in a good way as a child. This very open and admiring touch to life. And he was like very much living from his heart. And he had quite a bit of like soft values in a good way. Maybe one of his shadows was that he wasn't, like most of his life, he hadn't been very in touch with his masculine until I started working on this stuff and we started talking about this stuff. And then for the last 5-6 years of his life, he was really diving into it as well. And that's one cool thing about my dad. Like there was literally nothing that I could not talk with him about, like everything and anything. And we did talk about things that I think probably 99% of people do not talk with their dads about. And that was amazing. So I feel like in the after his death, like I was very much bringing those sort of qualities. And there's another thing, We had 2 memorials, one in Finland, one in Belgium, because my dad was Belgian, but he had lived in Finland for the last 30 years of his life. So we had 2 memorials, and those were moments where I am really proud of how I showed up. Like here, I don't know who took most responsibility, but I took a lot of responsibility on my shoulders for organizing it here. And I hosted the whole thing. You know, I welcomed everyone. I did like the speeches. I was like master of the ceremony in there. And as you see, I'm an emotional guy, and I don't hide it. Like cry and I function at the same time. Like I'm that type of man. For me, it's quite easy to cry, but I still function. And I think, by the way, not to like just to not, I'm not saying this to boost myself. I'm saying this because I really think this. I think this is like a very healthy masculine way of dealing with emotions. Like you're able to feel them. You do feel them. You're not afraid. You are so comfortable and secure that you are able to cry in front of people. But you don't crumble. You still function. So anyway, I was taking that sort of leadership here in Finland and organizing the thing and speaking in front of everyone and crying in front of everyone as I am speaking. And to me, that was like kind of setting the tone. And I know for a fact that my that's exactly how my father would have liked for those ceremonies to go. And I think I inspired others to also show emotion and share things about him. And I even said something along the lines that's coming to my memory now is like, if this event can bring us as a family and community and friends closer and be more real with each other, I know my father would be happy. And I did the same thing in Belgium. I went in front of the whole crowd. It was quite bigger in Belgium, and I didn't even know half the people. And I went there without a plan and held the most epic speech ever. I just had 3 points in my head. I went up there, I look at everyone, I start crying. And I speak from my heart, like the most epic speech like I've ever done, and everyone cries. And it was, again, it set the tone. And for these things, I'm immensely proud. Like this is the type of leadership that I want to take and show and, you know, bring to my people. I don't remember where this rant started, but this is probably around where it ends.
Yeah, I mean, man, I really, it's really, because, you know, you shared a little bit before, but it's really making me think of from your father's perspective. One, I'm really excited for you to have kids one day.
Yeah.
But it's really making me think
too.
like how will, hopefully in many years, my children, my son, be at my funeral. I mean, and it's like kind of a beautiful thing to think about, which is easy to, yeah, I'll speak for myself now, especially with 2 little kids. It's very easy to kind of just go through the motions and make sure they're fed and all that stuff. And obviously they're little, but like, yeah, what is the entire arc that will get eulogized when I die, for instance? Because you could almost put all of masculinity in quotes like under something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a beautiful thing to think about and kind of have as one of the guiding forces of our actions.
Yeah. Because these kinds of questions or these kinds of ideas, like it really helps solve, you know, certain dilemmas of like, oh, what's the balance? What's the nuance between being free and being sacrificing and being this and being that, being hard or soft? It's like, what is the ultimate thing that has you, for example, be remembered in a certain way? Or what's the effect that exists after you're dead? That kind of answers these questions rather than like, am I being like stern enough versus soft enough? They're kind of like unifying synergistic ideas that I think like, you know, a healthy philosophy should be rooted in, at least.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and I think that's a good thing. It's an amazing target to aim at in life. Is like, I think my dad was a great example at that, like how people really remember him and admire him and are inspired and touched by him as you pass. You know, that you really gave it your all and you really lived with a full heart. Yeah, I think it'd be very sad to die and no one really feeling much or not much being remembered about you or these sort of things, like, at least for me. And yeah, that's one thing, man. I have to say, like, having done 2 of these memorials, I did not know, I really did not know the extent of how much my dad was loved. until seeing all these people step forward and share what my dad meant to them, and really seeing their tears and all this stuff. Like, it really brought depth to understanding like how massive of an impact my father had made in so many people's lives. And both of the memorials we held small in how much people we could have invited. So I even saw a fraction of it, but still it was massive for my perspective or understanding of like the impact my dad has made in people's lives. And that was really beautiful. I did not know, like, of course I know he's a great man and all that, but I did not know the level at where or how he's touched so many people. Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, well, thank you for sharing all of that. It's I mean, it's great to get that perspective. It's easy to forget these things.
Yeah, I hope everyone listening can also tap into that inspiration and this cliche thing, but if your dad's still alive, man, talk with him. And I mean, I don't know how this lands with you, but or how well your relationship is with your dad, but yeah, while they're alive, like we can still share and at least try and fix things and share appreciation, all these things.
Yeah.
Well, okay, it's easy for me to say when my dad was fucking amazing and we had such a good relationship, so it's like easy for me to say, I guess. So yeah, I'll just add that too.
Yeah, I mean, I have been thinking about it because even our last call, I think I brought up, I've had a difficult relationship with my father and my parents, but I wouldn't want to end on that note, obviously, right? It's been up and down. I wouldn't want to end on a down. I would want to make sure that peace was, and I told you, like, a good friend of mine died in a freak accident, and I know that, I mean, aside from just being sad, obviously, it's like, man, like, it's a cliche thing. Like, if you were going to die tomorrow, are all your affairs in order, as far as emotional bonds and the things that you needed to say or not say. And yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just one of those things that is important to remember periodically.
Yeah. And it even comes to, I think in some sense, it's all the people in our lives. I don't know why, like, is my heart in a soft place right now, but like yesterday when I was laying in bed, dude, I was reflecting on like many women that I've been intimate with in the last 5 years. And I just had this sense of like wanting to send some of them a message like, hey, like not wanting anything, like nothing like that, but more like just somehow, I don't know, is this sense of responsibility? Like, hey, we've been intimate, like this care in my heart, like, hey, I hope you're well. Like, that's it. Like, I hope you're well, or like, I appreciate everything we've shared, or some things like this, like a thing about some exes and just feeling those sort of feelings. And I think, yeah, if I die tomorrow, I'd want to send those messages out today. I haven't sent any because I don't know. At the same time, it's like weird, but at the same time, I think like it's not going to hurt anyone. I think if anything, it's the opposite. But yeah, anyway, that's just the thought I had yesterday.
I've had moments where I've done things like that. Half the people respond or something, or like, it's probably some people are like, what the fuck? But those who appreciate it. Actually, every time I'm maybe this is my last point, but every time I've been on acid, I actually go to that place. Like, all the people I've been intimate with, I think about them and wonder if they're doing okay. It's easier on acid, I guess, or it's easier to go to.
I thought you were going to say MDMA, but
yeah, I don't know. I'm a little too in the moment on MDMA. LSD, I think about like the whole world and their needs. Cool, man. Well, thank you so much for sharing that.
My
anything
pleasure.
else you want to say? I mean, you're the man in for men's work in Finland. We'll obviously include your stuff. Anything you want to share you have coming up, or?
Yeah, well, for Finnish guys, like, yes, well, I guess sadly for your audience, all my content is in Finnish right now. But yeah, obviously for Finnish guys, like, go follow me on YouTube, Velivoima. Go follow me on Spotify, Velivoima Podcast, Instagram, Velivoima. And yeah, do you have many Finnish guys following you?
I'm sure there's some people. I mean, I've always had downloads in Finland, but it might be you. It might be you and whoever you forwarded my stuff to. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'll just show if there's some Finnish guys. Yeah, if you want to dive into my work, I have a free mini course which is epic, and you can check that out. That I'm just gonna say in Finnish: www.velivoima.fi kautta minikurssi. Boom. There you go.
Cool. I understood the last part of that. Cool, man. Well, thanks so much. I'll talk to you soon on our master.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks, bro.
Cool.
It was great.
Peace.
Peace.